All right, my real lover Michelle got a question. She says, I've been dating a guy for about a month and a half, and I really like him, but I'm always the one leading the conversations. Does that mean that he's not really interested in me? Okay, Michelle, what's going on, Michelle? That's a great question. I'm gonna get into it in a moment. If you listening as a real lover have a question that you like me to address in a future video, feel free to head over to rightsreallove.com/question, submit your question there, and I'll be happy to address it in a future vid. But yo, let's get into what Michelle wants to know, right? She's been with a guy, they've been dating for a month and a half, and now she wants to know how she can get him to lead the conversations, or really she wants to know whether or not him not leading the conversations as much as she feel like he should be doing is a sign that he's not interested in her. I personally will say, just off rip, I don't think that that's necessarily a sign that he's not interested in you. It could definitely be a sign that he isn't comfortable leading the conversations, or I think the best way for me to do this for you, Michelle, I got a question that I want you to think about, right? Because I think oftentimes we don't take the time to reflect. So let's do that. Let's do that for a second. Let's reflect. Here's the question that I want you to ask yourself. Is it the fact that he's not leading the conversations because, one, you've gotten in the habit of doing it? Or is it the fact that he's not leading the conversations from your perspective because it's not something that he's good at or something that he doesn't want to do at all, right? Like, those are completely different reasons for not leading the conversation. So I think being able to reflect, you may be able to step back and say, oh, you know what? Maybe it's the fact that I've just gotten in the habit of leading the conversations, and that's the only reason why he isn't taking the lead when it comes to what we're going to talk about when we hop on the phone or when we're in person or whatever the case may be, right? Or it could be the flip side, where it is something that he isn't good at, or he isn't used to doing, or doesn't have experience with, or just something that he don't want to do, right? So you really got to take a step back to really figure out why exactly is he not taking the lead from your perspective, right? So that's the main thing to keep into consideration. And then I feel like the way you can kind of solve this situation, if you are looking for a solution, is to give him the chance to lead the conversations. Now, that is going to require you to do something that may be a little bit uncomfortable, right? So take this and, run with it if you are totally fine with, stepping up outside of your comfort zone, which I hope you are as you're listening to this Right to Real Love, right? So, you got to be comfortable with allowing there to be some silence, right? And go into it knowing that, okay, cool, I'm about to step back. I'm gonna let him take the lead. And as I do that, there are going to be some times where I would have stepped up, kept the conversation rolling, put out a talking point or what have you. But I'm going to not do that and allow him to be in a position to do that. So as a result, there may be some times in that conversation that you got to be silent, that you got to be quiet. And I know not a lot of people know how to deal well with there being silence when you're in the presence of other people. So that may make you a little bit uncomfortable. But if you're willing to do it, I think that's a great way for you to give him the opportunity to lead without necessarily having to do what I'm going to say next, which is, if you are the type of woman who is open to taking a direct approach when it comes to having conversations and addressing challenges and issues in your relationship, then you should take the direct approach and have a conversation with him about it. Now, here's the thing. I always say that the best way to enter these conversations or initiate them is by asking questions. So you want to present a question to him, and I got one that you can use, right? You want to ask him, how does he feel with regards to the conversations that y'all having? More specifically, this is the question, right? I thought I was about to get into the question, but then a better one came into my mind, which is, ask him whether or not he feels like you're the one that's always leading the conversations. So from your perspective that you feel like that's the case, but it's important to figure out from his perspective, does he feel the same way? And if he's like, yeah, then y'all can take it from there. But if he's like, no, he doesn't feel like you're leading the conversations, then that is a place where you can be open and honest with him and tell him, well, dang, like, I've been feeling like that's what I've been doing. And because that's the way that I'm feeling going forward, I'm going to take a step back and really give you the opportunity to lead. I'm going to talk a little bit less, and now you'll understand why I'm doing that, right? So there are your options, ladies. If you are in a situation like Michelle, where you can either give him the chance to lead the conversation, be comfortable with, it being a little bit more silence because you're not going to just jump in there and keep leading the conversation and keeping it flowing, but you're going to give him the chance to do it. Or then secondly, you're just going to directly approach it, have that conversation with him and go from there. But I hope that's helpful to Michelle and anybody else that's in this situation. But ultimately, I don't think that that's a sign of him not being interested. I think you just got to get to the root of why he isn't leading the conversations more. Is it just something that you are personally perceiving as you're doing all the leading, or is it actually something that he feels as well? And then you guys can address it together. I hope if you are listening to this and you have a question that you like to get answered, then feel free to share it with me. Head over to righttoreallove.com/question. Submit your question and I'll be happy to answer it in a future vid. If you want to share your 2 cents or give any additional insights to Michelle, you can do that in the comments as well. But that's all we got for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I love y'all. Stay blessed, live, and love life. Thank God. Deuces.